I'm going to get started. Who out there, raise your hand, and when I say raise your hand, do it by tapping the screen. Raise your hand if you have ever had kids in your class interrupt. And I better see tons and tons and tons of tapping on the screen, because I'm sure that this happens as a teacher of young children. This happens to all of us every single day, all year long. It's one of the things that kids just do, right? It's natural for them to do that. And it causes a lot of frustration for teachers, or it can cause a lot of frustration for teachers. And I often get questions, oh my goodness, what can I do about these kids who are interrupting? And it's really funny when teachers from older grades move down to pre-K, preschool, and kindergarten, because they're like, these kids can't let me talk, you know? So it's really eye-opening. So I have some tips to help you handle the constant interruptions in early childhood. So I'm glad that you all have the exact same experience that I've had. So the first thing you should know, it's not one of my tips, but the first thing you should know is that it's normal and all kids do it. Some kids do it more than others, and that's just the way it is. So if you can, up your tolerance level of interrupting. The higher your tolerance level, the easier it will be. Now, I'm not saying ignore it. I have some tips too, but I'm just saying if it's shocking to you, the amount that little kids interrupt in the classroom, up your tolerance level just a couple notches, because it's never going to change. That's just the way kids are. So one of the things I like to do, one of the things that I do myself, and this is not one of my 3 tips, this is just a strategy that I use for myself, not for the kids, is I fill up my patience tank. I know that sounds ridiculous. I totally made it up, but it's a gas tank for teachers that needs to be filled at least once a week. Fill your patience tank all the way to the top, cap it off, and take a deep breath and just know that this is normal. This is how we roll in early childhood. Kids will interrupt, and use it as a teaching moment. It's going to get better with time. Think about how much your kids are interrupting in your classroom now compared to the first day of school. And then think back, if you've taught for more than 1 year, to the end of last year. And it's really hard to do that. But if you can, think about the amount of interruption that was happening at the end of the year last year. So if you can remember that far, you will know that that number goes down, that amount of interrupting goes down, right? So it will get better. It's just really hard to see the forest for the trees right now. So another thing I want to point out, and this is not one of my 3 tips either, is that quite often little kids at home get more attention than they do in the classroom, because in the classroom we have anywhere, depending on where you work, from 12 to 15 to 17 to 20 or more kids. Very seldom, unless they're one of the Duggars, these kids don't have 17 siblings at home. And so they're going to get more attention than they do in your classroom. So they're used to having a lot of attention given to them. You know, if you think about the average family size, they're getting a lot more attention at home. And so they're used to being able to talk whenever they want. So we just have to understand that this idea of being in a classroom setting is new to many of them, and it's going to take some adjusting. So they're used to more attention at home. And this whole thing about being in a classroom with other kids and not being the center of attention, that's new to them, because kids always think they're the center of attention, even if there's 20 others in the classroom. So I do have 3 suggestions for you. Eric, I have not heard of that. Lots of chocolate, says Wanda. You've heard that joke about putting a chocolate fountain in the teacher's lounge, right? Yes, Alana has a good point. It's often like that game Whack-A-Mole, where all the moles keep popping up and you're kind of bopping them on the head to get them down. Not that we do that to kids, but once one starts interrupting, the others will start interrupting. So it's really important that we have some strategies to use, and strategies that aren't controlling, but that are giving kids the tools they can use to be successful. And that comes, part of that comes from my webinar, Keep Calm and Carry On, where I talk about the downsides of teachers controlling kids' behaviors too much instead of giving them the tools they need to be successful. So if you haven't watched that webinar, that's a good one to check out. A chocolate fountain, Elizabeth says, yes. Yes, he's touching me. I have to use the bathroom. I'm hungry. He's touching me. Yes, those are things that kids will say. So here's my first tip. If you have, and I should have got mine out here, but I didn't. If you have a picture that, if you have any connectivity issues, just refresh your browser, we'll come right back. So, and this recording will be available for you to watch from the very beginning if you're just joining us. You can watch it from the very beginning as soon as we're done tonight. It'll be right here on the Pre-K Pages Facebook page. All right, so if you have a picture schedules are super helpful in the early childhood classroom. You're going to want to have one for a variety of reasons, but one of the reasons is that it can really help with interruptions. So a picture schedule can be done in a lot of different ways. You can take pictures of the kids doing the different things in your classroom, and you can make a little picture schedule. You can have one, I have one over here, but let me just grab. I have these little, let me hold on the other side. I have these little picture cards, and I put them in one of those Target Dollar Spot pocket charts. And as we go through the day, I move a clothespin down to the next, and there's different images. I move a clothespin down. So when you are in a group activity, like reading a story, I think that's probably the most common time that kids will interrupt us, is when we're reading a story. So if you are reading a story and somebody interrupts, which I'm sure never happens in your classroom ever, the first thing you want to do is think about what it is you're doing and if you're actually facilitating the interruption. And I know that sounds a little silly, but I always look back at myself and say, what am I facilitating this interruption? Am I doing something? Is my pace too slow? Am I not animated enough? Because a lot of times, I mean, kids are real honest, but a lot of times they don't know why they're interrupting. They just know that they feel like they should. And sometimes they feel like they should because they're not engaged enough. So make sure that your engagement levels are really high. So you're going to be using, when you're reading a story, you're going to be using your voice, and you're going to be giving the characters voices. You're going to read with enthusiasm. You're going to love this book, whatever book it is you're holding in your hand. It's your favorite book ever, and you're really going to sell it. And if you've watched any of my broadcasts before, you know I'm all about selling it to little kids. You have to really sell it because their natural inclination is not to just sit there and take in everything. Teacher, just teach me. You know, they want to run, they want to play. So, but reading books is very important. So you're going to want to take a look at yourself and make sure you're not doing something to facilitate that. Now, most of the time, it's probably not you, but you can always reflect. Reflection is part of being a good teacher. So refer to your picture schedule when kids are interrupting. Okay, refer to your picture schedule and point to the place on your schedule when they can share those things with you. Because you know the whole, I have a puppy, and you're reading a book about, you know, I don't know, Goodnight Gorilla. You're reading Goodnight Gorilla, and someone goes, I have a puppy. And then someone else says, I have to go to the bathroom. And someone else says, he's touching me. And now, what do, right? So you can refer to your picture schedule and point to the place where they can share that. You say, oh, that's wonderful. Why don't you tell me all about that during this time, and point to that place on the schedule. Right now it's story time, and it's time for listening ears or whatever. So definitely refer back to your picture schedule and let them know when it's appropriate. Is this going to work the first time you do it? No. Just like everything that we do in the classroom with little kids, it's all about repetition and exposure. And the more they're exposed to it, and the more you do this in the classroom, then the more effective it will become over time. So even if out of your 17 kids, and I'm just using that as an average number, but out of your 17 kids that you have in your classroom, and you know, we're all blessed with different numbers of children in our classes. Some of us have few and some of us have too many. But, oh, and I lost my train of thought. There it goes. Gee, it just went out the window. Did anyone see it? Catch it. Oh, but if one of them, during the time that you're reading aloud and you're doing this, referring them back to the picture schedule, if just one of them kind of gets it, you're on the right track. And maybe next week, another one will get it. And the fewer kids that are doing the interrupting, as that number goes down, that's why it gets better towards the end of the year. So, all right. I'm just catching up on comments here, guys. Becca says she has students talking about inappropriate things. It breaks my heart. They don't even know what it means. Yes. So that's a teaching moment too, Becca. When they do things like that, I always say, oh, that makes me, sorry. That makes me so sad. That's not something that makes me happy. I think the classroom is a happy place, and so let's not talk about those scary, sad things right now. I'm here to keep you safe. That's my job, and those things don't make me feel safe, and they might not make our friends feel safe either. So when they say stuff like that, you come back with a comment like that, and then after a while, because those are the same kids who are going to say it over and over. I had this phenomenon in my classroom, and it still exists today. It's crazy. I would have kids talking about Chucky. Okay, guys, this movie is like ancient, okay? It's like from when I was in high school or something. The Chucky movie. Kids would always talk about it in my classroom. I saw Chucky. Did you see Chucky? And then they would start talking about this horrific movie. And every year it happened. And every year I was like, okay, next year it won't happen again because that movie is so old, no one's going to see it. I was in a family video the other day. My brother still believes in family video. I was there with him, and we were looking at movies, and I picked up a kind of a scary one off the shelf. And a little kid came up to me. He was 4, and I know this because I have 4DAR. Do you have 4DAR? It's where you can spot a 4-year-old a mile away. Okay, he was 4. I bet $1 million on that. He comes up to me and he goes, oh, is that Chucky? I've seen Chucky. Blah, 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 blah. I was like, are you kidding me? There's kids, they're still talking about Chucky. And his mom came over and said, oh yeah, he loves those kind of movies. Oh my gosh. Don't get me started on Chucky, but they do say that. So you're going to come back with things like, oh, that makes me sad. I'm here to help you feel safe. My job is to keep you safe at school. And when you talk about things like that, those things aren't safe. And so I just come back at them like that. And then after you've done it a number of times, the same kid that always talks about Chucky, the other kids are going to start to turn to him and go, that doesn't make me feel safe. And of course, there's always another friend across the room that says, oh, you saw Chucky? I saw something other crazy thing that little kids shouldn't be watching. But anyway, sorry about that. I just got off on a tangent there. Kathy says, I want to hear what you have to say. It's my turn to talk now. You'll have a turn in a minute. That's very good, Kathy. I know. Why do they still talk about Chucky, Callie? I don't get it. Stacy says she has a little girl who talks about Chucky daily. And she insists that she's going to be him for Halloween. I do not know what it is. Oh my goodness. I know. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense to me. But okay, so refer back to your picture schedule. That's my first strategy. The second strategy is when a child interrupts, you can always come back with, is that what we're talking about right now? And my goal with that phrase is to introduce the word topic. I don't believe that there are any words that are too big for little kids. Because some of their favorite words are words like hypothesis and hypnotize and hippopotamus. Those just happen to be alliterative too. I'm not going there, but they love big words, Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I don't think the word topic is too hard at all. So I will gradually work my way up to topic, and I will say we're going to stay on topic. But I start with, is that what we're talking about right now? And I refer to the picture schedule. So I have my picture schedule on the wall. And I'll say, is that what we're talking about right now? So if someone raises their hand and says, I have a puppy, or they just blurt it out, and that's normal. Blurting is normal. I will say, is that what we're talking about right now? And I'll point to the schedule. And then I'll do the thing where I suggest this is a time when they can tell me. And I like the suggestion somebody else gave. You know, you'll have a turn in a minute. It's my turn now. So when I say, or when I ask, is this what we're talking about right now? Some kids will say yes, because they don't know what that means. They don't know what we're talking about. So when they say yes, because they will, okay, I say, oh, we're talking about Goodnight Gorilla right now. That's the book we're reading, or whatever it is you're talking about. Remind them, this is what we're doing right now. We're reading a story, and it is circle time, or whatever time of the day it is. That's what we're talking about right now. So we're not talking about I have a dog or Chucky or whatever it is. So you let them know, and then gradually, when they've heard that from me enough, and you know when you've hit that magic number, when other kids turn to that kid who always interrupts and says, it's not your turn right now, that's not what we're talking about. When the other kids say it, then you know they've had enough exposures to that you can introduce the word topic. And you can say things like, we're going to stay on topic. And right now we're reading a story about Goodnight Gorilla. And so I introduce that word to them. So that's going to become helpful when I introduce some writing skills later, and some reading skills as well. So another thing, this is my favorite one. Okay, so I gave you 2 strategies so far to help with kids who interrupt or blurt. My third one is my favorite, and it works the best. Are you ready? Give me a drum roll by tapping on the screen, a screen drum roll. Guess what I'm saying? Yes, some kids just like the sound of their own voice. They're not, some kids are not used to hearing other adults speak. They're just used to hearing themselves talk. You know, the kids that go, mom, 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 mom. Okay, so we have a drum roll for my third thing. If your kids are constantly interrupting and they are saying things like, I have a puppy, when it's circle time and you're reading the book Goodnight Gorilla, you nod and you say, oh, because now you're affirming that they do have something to say. I like this, okay? Yes. That might be, do you think that might be something you could write about during writing time? That's what I always say. And it works. And so then after I say that, so let me say it again. Yes. Do you think that's something you could write about during writing time? And sometimes they'll just look at you in the beginning. And so what you do is you show them. So you're going to do a little role play with them. You're going to say, take that idea about your puppy right out of your head and put it in your imaginary envelope. And during writing time, we're going to take the envelope out and get all the ideas out so that we can write about them. Okay, ready? Puppy, envelope, put it back. And now we're going to continue reading the story. Now you can do it a lot quicker than that. I did it a little slowly just because I was introducing this concept to you. So definitely try that out. So I have them put their idea in an envelope, and I tell them they can get it out during writing time. That's a great strategy to use that really works well for me. So I had this one little girl one time. She wasn't a real blurter, but she was just overflowing with excitement about a wedding that she had been the flower girl in over the weekend. And she kept blurting out during story time about all the great things they had. It was a circus themed wedding and they had some really cool stuff, and she was the flower girl and she wanted to tell me about it. So she kept saying, at the wedding they had, she just really wanted to share her story. And I said, Giselle, that is a fabulous story. I really am interested in hearing about the wedding, but right now we're reading the story. So if you could take those wedding ideas and put them in the envelope, I think it would make a really great story. Don't you? And then she put her ideas in there, and boy, when it was writing time, she had a whole page full of beautiful illustrations, and she was scribble writing all about the wedding and how they had peanuts on the table and all kinds of fun stuff. So Well, whatever kind of writing time it is that you have, whether that's a journal time or whether that's blank paper, or, when I say writing, I mean blank paper that they draw on. So, but I always call it writing. So whatever it is that you have. So imagine, take the idea out and put it in an envelope. And so I'm giving their hands something to do too, right? So that is my third and my favorite tip. Ask them if that's something that they could write about during story time. But if they say something inappropriate, like Chucky or whatever, then you're going to want to go with the that's not safe type of a thing. And there are always kids who are going to want to share with you inappropriate things that that they've experienced at home, if they have trauma in the home or anything. And so that's my go-to for those things is, oh, that makes me sad. And if it's something that they experienced that could be harmful or concerning, I'll say, are you okay? And then I'll ask them if they want to talk about it with me later. And I'll make sure to touch base with them again, because if it's very concerning, they're talking about domestic abuse of another parent or something like that, that's disturbing and that's considered trauma. And so you do want to acknowledge it, and you want to ask them how they feel, and let them know that that's sad and it's okay to feel sad. Yes, dad's in jail, my parents were fighting, things like that. That happens every day. Yeah, we're having some connectivity issues, guys. So refresh your browser and we'll come right back. I'm so sorry about that.
Everything that you said from writing, when you're talking about writing.
Okay, Tom was just giving me an update about the connectivity issues. So somebody asked about writing in preschool, and whatever it is that you do with writing, whether that's blank paper or whether that's a journal. When I say writing, I mean kids making marks on the page with crayons and pencils. So whatever that means to you. I always call it writing time with my kids because that's what it is. Tracy says she passes around a minion. Whoever has the minion is the only one who can be talking at the moment. Yes, Kathleen, sometimes they say very disturbing, troubling things. And I always let them know that I'm there to help as well. After they say things like that to me, and I ask them if they're okay, and I let them know that it's okay to feel sad. So those are my 3 tips for kids who interrupt or blurt. So I'm just going to recap those 3 tips for you now. The first tip is to refer back to your picture schedule if you have one. Now, this is one that I have that's in my store. You certainly don't have to use this one. You can create your own or take photographs of the kids in your classroom to make your own. So this first strategy, refer back to your picture schedule and say, this is when you can tell me that. So right now we're at circle time, and soon it will be whatever time, and that's when you can tell me about that. So refer to your picture schedule, actually point to what you're doing now and when they can share that with you. And the second strategy is that something we're talking about right now? And you're going to use that as an introduction to the word topic eventually, to let them know that that's not on topic. So if they say, I have a puppy, and you're reading a story about Goodnight Gorilla, ask them, is that what we're talking about right now? And if they say yes, explain to them, turn it into a teachable moment and say, well, really right now we're talking about, this is circle time, and we're talking about this book, Goodnight Gorilla, written by Peggy Rathbun. And, we're not talking about puppies. So let them know it's a teachable moment, because they don't understand that it's just, that's how they do things at home, and that's not how it works when you're in a large group setting. And my third trick that always works, that's my favorite trick, is to acknowledge what they said. So if they if they shout out or blurt out, I have a puppy, and you're reading the book Goodnight Gorilla by Peggy Rathbun, then you can say, oh, yes. Do you think that you could write about that during writing time? Let's take that idea about the puppy and put it in our imaginary envelope and tuck it away. You can put it in your pocket or put it, wherever you want. It's imaginary. and then point to the writing time that you have on your schedule. Or if it's center time, I'm sure you have a writing center in your classroom. So if center time is coming, let them know that that's the time as well. All right. I do want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. I'm sorry about the connectivity issues. We've had a weak connection tonight. And just refresh your browser and we'll come right back. I wanted to mention a few things in closing tonight. I want to thank you all for coming. And thanks for all of your tapping on the screen. And if you know anybody who could use these tips in their classroom, whether they teach preschool, pre-K, kindergarten, or whatever, make sure you share this out with them or tag them in the comments. I would so appreciate that so we can spread the word. So one of the points I want to make is that we don't want to control kids' behavior by telling them shh or psst, or taking points away or making them feel bad or any controlling that we do of their behavior. It's going to be punitive to them. It's going to be like punishment. So we want to give them the tools they need, the strategies they need to be successful. So shh and psst, and taking points away from groups of kids at tables and different things. That's all punitive, that's all punishment, and that's not going to be as effective because you want to create a strong bond with your kids and you want to create that connection so that you can really teach it to reach, right? Okay, so the teaching tribe, I wanted to mention one more time, it's a big announcement. So if you're a member, you're fine, don't worry. But if you've been thinking about joining the teaching tribe, and our connection is weak again, we're coming right back. If you've been thinking about it, now is the time to join the teaching tribe because it's been such a great success. We have 400 members now, and it's time for me to close the doors on membership in just a few short weeks. Now, those of you who are members, that doesn't mean anything for you. You're still in membership. Don't worry. But those of you who haven't joined yet, we're going to close membership to new members for a while. So we've got 400 members now. It's time for me to really hone in on giving my current members all that I've got. So I'm going to really focus on that for a while. And if you want in on this super deal, you can do that, but only for the next couple of weeks. I'm going to close those doors. And how long am I going to close those doors for? Like months. Okay, so that's like forever in preschool years. So if you want in, I would do it in the next couple of weeks. Get in before I close the doors to new members. And those of you who are in the tribe, don't worry. It's not going anywhere. I'm just going to focus on you and that's why I'm doing so many of the office hours right now. I'm just trying to do as many as I can for you and giving you bonus material like the Eric Litwin interview that you got to see before the public and things like that. So I really want to get everything in place for you so that you can have everything that you need and want and even wish for, right? We have a wish list over there too. And we're going to introduce tribe buddies soon. So we have a lot of new things going on in membership soon. So, okay. Lauren from the teaching tribe is here. Thank you, Liz. Is it Liz or Liz? Hey, Sharon. Michelle is absolutely right. She's talking about the interruption or blurting strategies. You're giving them strategies. They're going to help them be successful in the classroom. That's what we do as teachers, especially early childhood teachers. So we don't control, we facilitate, right? Hey, Laura, wonderful. Tracy, thank you. Thank you, Steph. Thank you, Linda. Thank you, Tisha. I really want to say people's names right. So if you want to give me a phonetic pronunciation, please do that. Hey, Nydia. All right. Hey, guys. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining. And those of you who are not members of the teaching tribe yet, Patty, Tom will drop a link for you. Wanda says you won't regret joining the teaching tribe. It's awesome. Thank you so much, Wanda. Wanda is one of our members. Thank you, Carmen. Whoop. I hope I didn't delete anybody. Adriana, how do I make sure I'm part of the tribe? Crystal, Tom will drop a link for you. Sharon, Tom will drop a link for you too. Thanks, Bridget. Awesome. Yes, Tisha, I think I can pronounce your name. I think I got that one. All right. Hey guys. Oh, I hope you're not mad at me. Thank you, Sheila from the Teaching Tribe. She says, always time well spent with your Facebook Lives. Hey guys, I gotta go, but once again, thanks for joining us. These were 3 tips to help kids who interrupt in your classroom or blurt. If that's the case, I gave you 3 of my favorite strategies, some of the reasons why kids do that, and some of the reasons why we want to use those 3 strategies. So thanks a lot for joining me. I will see you again Wednesday. This is a regularly scheduled broadcast every Monday and Wednesday, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Allison says the Teaching Tribe is the best. Jennifer says, get in on the Teaching Tribe. It's a supportive place. That's true. Jennifer is one of our trail guides. We have trail guides over in the tribe to help guide you through. Hey, Lisa, Tom will drop a link for you. Carmen, Tom's going to drop a link for you too. Hey, Shatrice, you can watch from the very beginning as soon as I hit finish tonight, which I'm going to do right now. Hey, Bobby, Tom's going to give you a link for that. All right, bye guys. I will see you on Wednesday. I think Wednesday's going to be our question and answer session. So look for a link to, we have a monthly question and answer session here on Pre-K Pages. Look for a link coming through on the Facebook page or in my email. If you want to subscribe to my free emails, I will send you a link to the document. You can ask me anything and I will try to address it live. Sometimes we get like 100 questions and I can't get to them all. So look for that in your email or over here. Thanks, Ashley and Jenny. Tom's going to drop a link for you.